Hey, welcome to my channel. I haven't been talking about the Mets as of late because more so the fact is the Knicks were in it and like it was hard to focus on the Mets while the Knicks were in the playoffs and like the fact that they won. But I was still following them here and there. To be honest, I was still following what they were doing, and the losses that were accumulating with a few wins here and there, it was more of a case where like the writing was pretty much on the wall at this point. Quite honestly, I could see it at this point as well too. That the writing was on the wall with Mendoza. I mean, it was like either going to happen at the end of the season or to the beginning. During the season, basically, where he was going to get fired. Um, this is a point where, like, yes, I think Stearns also should get the blame, most of the blame as well too. But reality is after the Cubs series, all those mental errors, all those like I don't want to say mental errors, but like all those bush league errors that you were seeing, basically. Granted, yeah, you can call them mental errors, but reality is like this felt inevitable. I mean, the timing is still hit hard. The Mets have fired, with the firing of Mendoza. I mean, he's out after like 2+ seasons, of course, and Andy Green being named interim manager for the rest of the season. Green had been working with the Mets player development market or player development department actually. So this is not just a random outside voice, but this is someone already inside the organization, already familiar with the system, the process, and the way David Stern wants the organization to operate. I mean, I don't know. I think this is more just about this is more than just the manager himself. I mean, at the time when the Mendoza was let go, the Mets were like 34-47. They're at the bottom of the National League at this rate, practically. Coming off another ugly stretch that included a 6-game losing streak and a brutal doubleheader against with the Cubs, where the defense completely fell apart. And that was one of the things where, like, it seems like the Mets players were not in it per se. Now, granted, yes, there was a lot of injuries going on this year, basically, and a lot of miscues, and the fact that Stearns dismantled the team, we're replacing with like what you think would be shoddy players, basically at that point. More than anything else, to replace some of the players that he let go and trade away, like fan favorites Nimmo, of course, as well as Pete Alonso. Now, I know I've said like like with Pete Alonso, we should have traded him. The only reason I'm saying is we should have traded him because if you're not going to sign him, you might as well trade him because let's get something in return. We didn't, and we let him go at that point. And reality is like I think we could have signed him. Was he worth this money? It's showing that he might have been, but was he worth for 5 years? I don't know about that. Um, but I guess what the fact is like it's a 12-game losing streak at this point. Early, that already happened early in the season. And Mendoza's job was like literally, I guess, put under pressure at that point, a little really early since then. And I think that's why a lot of this really happened from that perspective. And when you have one of the highest payrolls in baseball as well, too, let's be honest, is like, and your expectations are to be in the playoffs. Everyone was expecting to be in the playoffs or bust at this point. I mean, when the team looks lifeless for like those long stretches, somebody's going to pay the price. And in this case, it was going to be Mendoza. I mean, it was going to have to be. Was Mendoza the only problem? We know it's not. We know it's absolutely not. Like we said, the roster has been a mess. There's been injuries to key players. Lindor being out. Several offseason moves has not worked out the way like we said that they expected. This is definitely on Stearns basically. Like so, Bo Bichette could probably like handle the shortstop, second base at that point, letting and then bringing in Robert. I mean, yeah, granted, I thought Robert was going to be good when he started early in the season, but it's turning out to be a mistake at that part. But reality is like letting I guess Alonso leave, that was a big factor as well too. Like I said, and then Edwin Diaz. They could have done something to keep Edwin Diaz, but like reality is they didn't. And every one of their replacements have been underperforming or gotten hurt, or which is surprising. And then failed to give a team like a real identity. Um, Fox Sports even themselves, which surprising enough, know that the Mets were like 15 games back in the NL East and like 9 games 9 games out or 9.5 games out of the wild card. I mean, we're in the midpoint season. Like with Fox Sports themselves, even saying like the Mets having no shot. When Fox Sports says that, that's this is like it's the end at this point. Um, eh, I don't want to say it's a player performance failure, but Mendoza could only eke out so much. I think they were trying to replicate what they did in 2024 with what they had. But the thing is, at that time in 2024, granted, some of the pitchers weren't that great, but the players were still there. They picked it up at that point, and like I think it was more of a case where this is what I think it was. I think it was in 2024, as I said, basically Mendoza coming in as his first year because he got them to the NLCS championship and like they lost in six. I think that gave him a little bit of leeway, but reality is like now, granted, Mendoza I think is going to be picked up very quickly as a coach for sure. Definitely a coach, somewhere bench coach for sure. As a manager, I think he's got a little bit few things to iron out at this point. But reality is I think it's a case where like it wasn't Mendoza, but I think it was JD Martinez that was helping the team, specifically with their hitting, because like when their hitting was horrible, no one could figure out what was going on. And then JD Martinez comes along and basically like basically loosens up the guys a little bit, like loosens them up to the point like they're having fun. And I think it was because of JD Martinez. Now, I think they need someone of that nature as a hitting coach where like he can help loosen up the players and like let them relax at that point because their hitting is horrible. Now the question is with their defense. I mean, that was the thing. Remember, let's be honest. This was the thing. This is the reason why Stearns let uh Alonso, let Diaz, let McNeil, let Nimmo go, basically, and quite a few others because he wanted to go, wanted to create a run preventative system, and that has not helped out in this situation, considering the fact that like all these mental errors, all these errors that we've seen throughout the entire season, has not panned out to what he expected. And it's a case where like I don't know if it's metrics or whatnot or his sabermetrics aspect of things, but more so to the one like I don't know what it is, but it seems like whatever he did in Milwaukee is not working here in New York. It's definitely not working here in New York. Does he put a stamp on it? Is it because of the fact that like there's some parts of the team that was inherited? It's possible, but at the same time, let's be honest, he's building up this team and like he's let some of these players go. I mean, some of the granted he was able to basically get Bench. He drafted Bench. I'll be honest about that. That was a pretty good pickup on his part. But Bench is only doing so much. I think he still has yet a few ways to go. The PCA Pete Crow Armstrong trade looking like a mess for the Mets at this point as well too. Um, I mean, I was trading Sprout for Peralta. I'll be honest. I thought Peralta coming on board would have helped out the Mets at this point, but it's looking like more and more like I think the Mets coach, a pitching staff, the pitching coaches. I mean, the pitching staff itself. I think the pitching coaches have to change at this point as well too, because the pitching staff is not really doing well, and they haven't been focusing on the pitching. I mean, yes, you got Peralta, and then you're hoping like McLean and what's his name, Tong and whatnot, and all of them coming up would help out. Peterson, Senga. I've said it before. Senga. We should have traded him when he had the shot, and like it's showing to be true this way. So like Senga has not recovered. He's not going to be what he was in the beginning parts of the Mets when he first joined them. We should have traded him when we had the chance, but it is what it is. I think now what the rest of the season is like Andy Green probably has to manage out the rest of the season. Um, he's already indicated that he wants Green to come back to the front office, so he's definitely going to look for someone else as a manager at this point, unless Green does something really miraculous. But I doubt that's going to happen. Second, I think, of course, the Mets are going to be sellers at this point. I mean, there's nothing much they can do. Um, I don't know if it's going to mean a full rebuild, but the fact that they've signed Soto at this mega million contract, you're not going to get rid of him. You're going to keep him because he's once in a lifetime generational player. But is he a team player now? I don't know. Looking at it now, it's looking more and more like he's not a team player. I don't know. I could be wrong. That could be my misinterpretation. He's definitely generational talent. Let's be honest. He's definitely a generational talent. But it doesn't seem like he's a guy that's has that camaraderie like all the other players, like he did when he was with the Nationals. I mean, I think he liked it when he was with the Yankees more than coming with that. And I think he's looking back and is like realizing like, was it a mistake to leave the Yankees to go to the Mets at this point? Um, I don't know. I mean, I don't know who the Mets can actually trade at this point. I mean, I'll have to take a wait and see type of thing. But Peralta plays a big factor. I mean, like Peralta has to go because honestly, he's not going to resign with the Mets. At this rate, the rate what we gave up Sprout, which he was doing horrible in the beginning of the season, but he's kind of showing like why he was a Mets highly touted prospect. And then of course, Clay Holmes. I mean, I think they're the only two reasonable uh assets that we have right now that are worth to trade. I mean, Lindor, he's coming off an injury right now. I don't know if they can get much for him at this point. Do I want to trade Lindor? I don't know just yet. Let's wait and see, because Lindor seems like he's becoming the true captain. I mean, I think he's. The fact is, Lindor has that interaction with the fans to the point where, like, I think he's willing to. He's even tweeted out basically like, "Stick with us, bear with us. We know we're going. We're not living up to expectations, but of course, the fact is like we are going to play our hearts out." If they do that, I mean, honestly, I think I'll still watch them to the point where, like, if they can still play good baseball, then I could, I think we could, we can still rally behind them a little. Now, will they make the playoffs and wild cards? That's not happening. Let's be honest, that's not happening. Um, the real question comes down to this: is like, after the trade deadline occurs, we'll have to see what Stearns has done, because if Stearns has not gotten much anything or improved the Mets to a point of, like, from the future aspect of things, like for next year and the year after, uh, I don't know what's going to happen. Honestly, it's a case where, like, Stearns probably has to go, but I don't know if he's going to be on the hot seat per se. It doesn't seem like he's on the hot seat because we haven't heard from Cohen since. But Stearns did, let's be honest, Stearns did get rid of Mendoza's staff, and originally he got rid of Mendoza's original staff and, like, got a new staff at this point. So it's it's really it's that the part of the blame does fall onto the front office and to the aspect of, like, what Stearns has done so far. Um, Cohen has been big basically. So let's see what happens. I mean, like, yes, yesterday's a win against the Phillies, not yesterday, Saturday's win against the Phillies was good, but yesterday's loss did not help any at that point as well too. I mean, they did keep it close to 5-4, but reality was it wasn't that close. And I don't know. I think everything shifts towards David Stern. The pressure now comes onto David Stern as well as Cohen. I think if Green can stabilize the club a little bit, Andy Green can stabilize them and maybe avoid total embarrassment and, like, get them to 500, finish 500. Maybe they become respectable at that point. But reality is like, they need someone of a true managerial experience. I mean, do we want another Willie Randolph? I don't know if that works out. Maybe he might have learned. I don't know. The other person I think would probably work really well is probably Carlos Beltran. Beltran could come in and help out at this point as well too. Um, and then Joey Cora. I mean, Cora did really well with the Boston Red Sox before they fired him. If the Mets can somehow find him, and if he's available at that point, maybe try and sign him, and, like, maybe he can do something with the Mets at this point. I don't know. Um, I kind of like Mendoza a little bit, but at the same time, some of the moves that he did, like, some of the moves he made, his reasoning didn't make a whole lot of sense. Maybe he thought he was using a little bit of the metrics aspect of things, but I don't know. It's one of those things where, like, I feel like this Mendoza was going to be lost anyways. I felt like last year, based on the fact of what happened last year, the guy that could not. The fact is that when they started off hot and they fell, like, flat towards the end of the season and they didn't make the playoffs. I mean, like, that was a little bit on Mendoza at that point, and felt at that point that the pitching played a huge factor. Stearns, I thought, recognized it, but didn't seem to recognize it. I could see what he was trying to do, but it didn't pan out. And its reality is like, if you wanted to do a run preventative team, create a run preventative defense, he should have, like, built out the proper way, because, like, some of these guys that he got as replacements were not that great. And of course, injury prone. Injury plays a factor. I'll be honest. Let's be honest. Injury does play a factor, but at the same time, I'm going to say this: you always take into account for injuries, and you try to make sure you have your backups ready for that. So this is definitely on Stearns at this point. We'll be honest. This is definitely on Stearns, and we're not going to say, like, it's totally Mendoza's fault, but, like, all those errors that were going, all those mental errors, it seems like he wasn't preparing the players. It seems like he based back to basics and fundamentals. I felt like the Mets, after Showalter left, every team that Showalter leaves, the Mets, their team does really well. Either elevates the play, like, into the World Series or win the World Series. Showalter, I think, probably was the right call to help the Mets that time. He probably would have been the right person at this point as well. Too. He probably could correct the Mets, because at least Showalter shows the fundamentals, make sure that the fundamentals are still there. Problem is like, with those fundamentals, they can be, like, kind of tedious and, like, sort of micromanaging. And I think, a lot of the stars didn't like that from that perspective. And that's why Showalter was gone at that point. But reality is Mendoza was no better at that point. Mendoza's no Joe Torre. I think Mendoza was trying to go the Joe Torre school of training, but reality is like that doesn't work nowadays, quite honestly. Um, Dave Roberts with what he's doing as the Dodgers, I think part of it works out really well. Some aspects that he's done well, but at the same time, I think he's just getting very lucky at the same time as well too. Because like the players that he's surrounded with, I think he's gotten lucky at that point too. So, um, uh, there are times where like you're wondering like, will the Dodgers ever like surpass what they can? If Roberts were to retire, I think it would be good for the Dodgers because like if you get another manager like I bet you if Mendoza went there, he probably would have done really well with that. But I don't know. That's my take basically. I don't know what you can say, but it is from my aspect. I mean, let me know your thoughts. I mean, honestly, is like, do you think basically like this is a case where like, do you think this is a case where like the Mets can actually salvage the season? That's the real question. Can they salvage the season? Do you think Mendoza was treated unfairly? Fairly, I don't know. Or was this the right move? I don't know. Let me know what you think about it. And like, of course, as always, let's go Mets. What did I leave it at that? Unfiltered, unedited, of course, always unrehearsed. Until next time.